to select bus service over the last 10 years. They work well, but that's a small percentage of the city's bus system. And even on routes that haven't become SPS, we're constantly looking how we can make things better. A new shopping mall opens a half mile from the end of a bus route. Yes, of course, let's extend that bus route to the new shopping mall. But we're not necessarily looking at all the bus routes that connect to that now newly extended bus route. Maybe things aren't working as well as they could as a system, right? A bus network is a network of a grid or things working together. And we've mostly been working with routes in isolation and small changes. So with that example, I mentioned about the new shopping mall. So say that now this bus route is 5 miles long instead of 4.5 to get to that new shopping mall. But that last half mile, how many traffic lights are there? How many congestion points are there? Somebody on that same bus route 4 miles back who has no interest in going to the shopping mall now potentially has worse service because we are serving other people going to the shopping mall. We can't decide what is better for each individual, but what works best as a whole, and that's what we haven't necessarily been doing. Small tweaks are not enough. We need to take a zoom out, look at the system as a whole. What else we'll be looking at is what services are missing or insufficient. So off-peak service, right? This system has been in place for decades. The 9 to 5 workday is not as prevalent as it used to be, right? People are working different hours. They're telecommuting some days, but not others. They might telecommute, but then have a doctor's appointment, or shopping, or childcare during the midday, evening. All of our bus routes basically have more service in the AM peak, PM peak than during the midday and the evening. What can we do about that? Do we have resources to amplify, to bring more service in the midday and the evening? There's some places where there's too much service in the peaks. How can we move things around to best serve all of our customers' trips? A night network. Some routes operate 24/7, many don't. We don't have resources to operate all routes 24/7, but what routes should have that overnight service? Can we create a network that works as best as it could? We have a route running 24/7 under an elevated subway. I won't mention where. Is that the best use of resources? Or is that a
subway
historical?
accessible?
Excuse me?
I would like to ask the first question.
And that is a very good question. And how do we balance? I'm not coming here with answers. I'm just starting off the project here.
Well, that changes the question.
Absolutely. I completely agree. But it's the different factors we need to keep in mind as we go through this project. Because yes, the buses are accessible to all, the subway is not. But at the same time, we don't have buses growing on trees and bus drivers coming out of the woodwork to just throw on the street willy-nilly. So how do we balance everything? That's what we'll be looking at. Travel within each borough is obvious, but travel between boroughs is what we often hear. Connect the boroughs better. But there are challenges there. Queens and Brooklyn are the only two that are on the same landmass. But even that, when I looked the other day, there are very few roads that are suitable for a bus that connect the two boroughs. And we basically have a bus route on all of them already. That isn't to say that things are working as well as it could. Can we change the terminals of those routes to better connect it to where people want to go? Can we work with DOT to get some bus priority through those few Queens, Brooklyn streets? And obviously all the other boroughs separated by water, those bridges are choke points. What can we do? How many buses do we send in a borough versus sending people to an ADA accessible subway station, for instance? Just a lot of questions at this point. We don't have answers. We'll be working on the answers. So Dave's been out, the Queens Network Redesign Project this month, multiple project kickoff open houses across the borough. And I've just pulled one example. I was at the Astoria meeting a couple weeks ago, or was that only last week? Well, a week. And this is it's just to show that dry erase board, right? This is the bus network today in Northwest Queens. And we've done things, wait. We've done things here, you missed the punchline. No, there are 3 new SBS routes on this map. There's a new interborough bus route on this map. There's also routes that just me looking at it, and I haven't studied it, I'm not sure that they make sense anymore, but I don't know.
Where's the 32?
B32, it's a little blurry.
BQ.
Oh, Q32.
You gotta be careful when you say 32, because in Long Island City, now you have 2 of them.
Exactly. But yes, now Dave, sorry, I messed up, we messed up our coordinating, our timing here and the punchline, but this is
That's
what.
the next round of service cuts.
Oh, I
I hope
not.
not. But this is what we want to look at. And once you pull the bus routes off, you see some interesting things here, right? They're key destinations in this quadrant, just to use this as an example. Clearly, we will have at least one bus to the airport, probably more than one. There's dense housing, there's dense employment sectors. There are areas far from the subway. There are subway nodes. We know some of these subway stations are accessible and others aren't. But there will always be a bus on Northern Boulevard. I can guarantee you, whether it's a major arterial through the heart of Queens, what the terminals of that route are, will it be the same as the Q66 now? Who knows? But the type of thing we'll be looking at. So Dave will go through more of our process and how we'll be thinking about these things going forward.
This is also a good example of our work with our partners. Just yesterday I was at Department of City Planning and we were going over very specific buildings in these various areas, especially Long Island City and the growth that's going on there. Even though Amazon pulled out, the Annabelle Basin that they had, we were already working with the city planning before Amazon ever mentioned coming here. That there was already, approved units there, housing, commercial, this whole area. And so we're looking at it. We already had plans to extend one bus route there, but so now we're taking a fresh look at it. But that's one of those examples where some city agencies have information that we don't about the future, that we really need to pay attention to certain areas that are really coming up versus other areas that have their zoning locked in and they can't grow at all. And so then we know that. But that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. Where will there be in the future, and how do we prepare for that? So how do we do this? One is working with Department of City Planning, but also DOT. That's obviously our primary partner. We have them in the room with us all the time. We have standing meetings constantly every week, multiple emails every day. They're at each one of our open houses that we're going to right now in Queens. We've got one tonight in Laurelton. So we're working with them on transit signal priority. That's where you hold the system, the light system knows that a bus is running late, and then it holds the light a little longer. Instead of turning red, it holds it green a little longer, lets the bus run through, and then it turns the light red.
How does it know?
They have to do it. It's all GPS computer related. It's reading the location of buses at every moment of the day. Then we also have bus lanes. The mayor committed to a 25% increase in bus speeds over a 2-year period, and to get us there we need transit signal priority. We also need bus lanes, and we're even now talking about protected bus lanes. So that's some of those things that DOT is looking at specific areas on Archer Avenue in Jamaica. I don't know if you know that, we have a ton of bus stops all together, so is that an appropriate location for a protected bus lane? So we're working with them through all those little details and looking for those choke points and looking for ways to speed up buses with little surgical improvements while we look at the whole plan and try to figure out a better way through the various different streets. We also have all-door boarding coming. This is another one of those Andy Byford specials where when he came in, the tap card, the Omni that we're talking about launching tomorrow, it was initially just going to be on the front of buses, and Andy was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Back doors too, not a question, do it. And so now, in 2021, we'll have all-door boarding for the buses, which will speed up buses, which will be amazing for us, since dwell time at bus stops takes a lot of time out of the actual getting the people to where they want to go. So we're working with DOT on these different things, and then also looking at the bus bunching and seeing, are there specific circumstances that lead to bus bunching more than others? Are there specific places we can do it? Where are our bathroom locations for our bus operators? When they've been running back and forth and they need to stop and have a bathroom break, do we have a bathroom there for them? And in some areas where we do have bathrooms, maybe we should end more buses over there, but then maybe it's not where people need to go. That's what we've got to look at. And here's the big but for all of this, is we have competing interests, competing goals, competing concepts, such as ridership. This is kind of simple, where if you want as much ridership as possible, you only go to the most dense areas and you go as fast as you can and you have as much priority as you can and you skip as many stops as you can and you just go, 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 and you will build your ridership. But that doesn't get you everybody, and so you need coverage. People want their bus out where they are. If you went for just a coverage system, the service would be a lot thinner and you wouldn't have as much frequency and the buses wouldn't run as fast. But somewhere between, there's a balance. Some areas are going to be better for some kinds of service and some are better for others. So it's not one or the other, it's a balance of mixing the two. Because again, you want to better allocate the resources you have available. We only own so many buses and they're all out during the peaks. But you also want to make sure everybody has access. For a lot of people, this is a lifeline to get around the city. A lot of people don't own cars. A lot of people need the bus. Same thing with bus stop spacing. Some people want the bus stop right in front of their house or right in front of their neighbor's house because they don't want it in front of their house with the trash that people drop. But they want to be able to get it right there on their block. And they always want it to be there, whereas other people don't. Other people want that bus to skip that stop so that they can go faster to their destination. And so we have that issue. One thing is the accessibility issue, that our buses are accessible, and so they provide a lifeline. So on the one hand, to speed up buses, all-door boarding will help. Taking out some bus stops that are too close might help as well, but then some people definitely want it closer. So we've got to look at each one of those areas individually. How close are the bus stops? How close is appropriate? And what can we do? There are some that we have that are 200 or 300 feet apart, which seems a little crazy to say. The international standard is much more like 1,500 feet. Our average here in New York City is around 700, 750. So we're looking at those. What is an appropriate distance to travel to get to the bus stop? Some people can't get to bus stops very easily, and so they want them close.
Can you translate that into blocks?
I'm
please?
sorry?
Could you translate that into blocks?
Block's
No,
about 200
because-
feet.
Well, but which section of a block? Are you talking about a north-south block in Manhattan, or are you talking about an east-west block?
The
in
narrow
Manhattan?
end.
That's 200 feet for a
That's-
north-south block.
So it'd be like every 8 blocks.
No, every 3.5.
Well, you said 1,700.
No, I said the international is 1,500, but that's
Oh,
not,
sorry.
that's not what we're talking about. In New York, it's about 3.5 blocks, 3.5 of those blocks.
That's
you got-
north-south, what about
There's
east-west?
blocks plus the streets in between is the distance.
And what about east-west blocks?
1.5, roughly. Again, the distance of blocks east to west varies a lot
Sure
across
does.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
So that's why we can't, it's difficult to use blocks because everybody. has
Right,
to
yeah,
find
I
a
was
block.
going for the street.
But yeah,
It's easier.
2 football fields is 700 feet.
That's long.
That's long.
That's not really taking into consideration people who have some level of disability or age impairment.
It is taking that into account.
2 football fields?
2 football fields is taking that into account, yes.
I can't get across the room.
I understand. And it's not something that's gonna be one size fits all, but it's also not something that's gonna work well for everybody, every place, and there's gonna always be a balance. It's always gonna be a balance, and it's never gonna be a one standard, everything should be X number of feet. It's always gonna be changed based on the actual circumstances and actual land uses there. In an area where there's just a couple of houses on large lots, it doesn't necessarily need to be there. In other places where there's dense areas, yes, you would be more likely, especially if you think about here in Lower Manhattan where you have subway stops that are literally almost a football throw away from one to the next, from Bowling Green to Wall Street. Okay, maybe not a football, maybe a Yankees outfielder could hit it, but anyway. There are definitely closeness in those areas where there are the high density and lots of users. But in other areas, they aren't that close together. All right, so that's one of the other things we're balancing. Next, we're also balancing, some people really like their one-seat ride. They happen to live near the start of a route, they get on the route at the beginning, they have a seat the whole way, they get off when they're done, and that's it, and it's nice and it's great and they love it. But if we change the system to try and make it better for everyone, they might lose that one-seat ride. They might be forced partway through their trip to get out and transfer, and then they get on a bus where they now are standing because all the bus seats are taken. And so obviously they don't want that, but we can cover more areas, get people faster where they want to go, if we do it that way. But again, that's one of those balancing things. Some places it's gonna work out well, other places it's not, but people are always gonna feel strongly about wanting that one-seat ride. And especially if they're already transferring to the subway, having to transfer bus to subway, bus to subway to bus, those are things that people just don't wanna do. 3-seat rides, 4-seat rides are crazy. So that's one of those things we have to look at. How can we improve the speed of overall travel, including wait time and in-bus and in-subway travel time, versus trying to keep it to as few transfers as possible. So that's one of those balancing points. Similarly with specialized routes. A lot of our routes are meandering and they may take you right from where you want to go to your doctor's office, and that's great for that particular circumstance, but there are other places that we're missing. One of those inner borough travel problems that we have is Southwest Queens to Southeast Queens. If you want to go from Southwest Queens to Southeast Queens, you have to go through Jamaica by bus. There's no way across. And so if you do turn it into more of a grid like this so that you can get across from Southeast Jamaica to Southwest Jamaica, that one seat ride that you enjoyed to your doctor's office might not be there anymore. So those are the kind of things that we're balancing, and there is no one size fits all, and that's why it takes us a while to look at this. And so Evan's going to now talk about the process that we're going to go through over the next couple of months.
All right, so I'll just give a quick overview of where we're going in the next couple of years. So Staten Island Express bus redesign was actually a project that was ongoing in operations planning before Mr. Byford got here, but it got subsumed into fast forward, which is great. It launched in August of last year. Some adjustments were made in the fall and winter, responding to customer feedback and operational feedback from our operations folks. From a network redesign perspective, we're basically considering this done. It doesn't mean we'll never make another change again. There are constantly issues that crop up, little things, bigger things, but network redesign, check, right? Initial analysis, and I'm sure we'll be doing more of this, more deep dive, but buses are traveling 12% faster overall, so far so good. Little blurry, but Bronx bus network redesign is ongoing. The existing conditions report, which is that sort of market analysis, travel analysis I spoke to early in the presentation, was released back in February. The draft plan is coming out tomorrow, so look for that on our website. We'll meet our May deadline. Frantically, my colleagues are frantically at work upstairs. That will include our proposals for the new network. What routes are changing, what routes are not, and why. And then we'll be out in the borough of the Bronx next month, multiple open houses to talk through the changes. And this is definitely a draft, has it in the title. We want feedback. We will make changes based on feedback and come back with our final plan in September with more outreach. But implementation, we learned from Staten Island where we went a little too fast, takes quite a while, and we need to take some time to do it carefully. We also want to do it in a warmer month when it's nicer for us as employees to be out there doing customer service, and also nicer for customers to be out there. If we're asking somebody to get to another block for a bus stop, maybe it's better with this 60 degrees. So probably middle of the year next year we'll be rolling that out. And we're on our way. I can take questions about that later if there are any. Queens, which Dave is leading, kicked off last month. They're out doing a sort of opening round of outreach now. The next step is the existing conditions report to come out in August, and there'll be a similar timeline to Bronx going forward with the final plan sometime next year.
So could I just ask,
Yes.
because I've seen so many bus changes come to the board and come as information items only without the board able to actually sound off, or the transit committee even allowed to sound off on it, will these major changes come to the board as action items, or will they be for information only?
Let me double check on that. I'm pretty sure the rule is the policy is if we change more than 25% of our route miles, it has to be voted on
Yes,
and
I
public
think
hearing, and I would certainly imagine that this would qualify. Yes, for Staten Island Express, we did have a public hearing, so yes to all that, but we can verify that.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Unless I didn't hear, I think you left out one borough,
Yeah,
No,
not done
not
yet,
yet.
almost there.
Manhattan.
Yes, we're getting there. So,
Okay.
Brooklyn project will start in the fourth quarter of this year. And as you mentioned, that leaves Manhattan and Staten Island local bus network, which are coming TBD, probably starting in 2020, so next year sometime. But yes, we will be getting everywhere. So that's all we have, but we're happy to take questions. All right, go ahead.
When you do a tweak, I'm thinking of the B36 in Brooklyn. It straightened out the line along Avenue Z instead of making the meandering turns around to the subway station, which added blocks to walk. Now, I can't tell the difference. Does anyone look and follow up to see if it actually improved service when you make these kind of changes, where you think you're straightening out the route, but maybe it's cosmetic, maybe?
Yes.
Cosmetic-wise, it's straight, but I don't know if the service is any better, that the bus doesn't have to go around the block twice.
The short answer is yes, we do look at it. I don't have the specifics in the back of my mind about the B36 change, but yes, of course.
Yes, of course, you follow.
We check and we monitor, yes.
Go ahead, Ellen.
I'm curious, with this whole redo, how is your technology using simulators for this redesign? Having it move forward, having it tied into the bus control center that is getting built, that sort of thing. What is your simulation?
So one of the big pieces of this is the ridership demand model, and we're getting, I have a consultant on board. We're working on getting a consultant for Brooklyn, and basically the consultant creates this model, and the reason we need that is so that on day one, we're sure of our existing riders being served versus changing the network to meet future demand and missing out and having people stand out on Merritt Boulevard on day one. So it's a rather complex
But
set of
transit
modeling.
still doesn't, yeah, you still don't have your own.
We have an
route
internal
based.
model, it just doesn't, it's not as sophisticated, and we needed to do more for the purposes of redesign, so that's why
Yeah.
we're bringing the consultants on. But to answer your question about the facility being built in East New York, we're also changing, and Evan alluded to it, that we're not just changing the routes themselves, we're also changing how we go about operating the buses. They're doing a whole new system where dispatchers will have more information and more control on a specific set of buses running through. And so one really heavy bus route or two might be under just the guise of one dispatcher looking at them and be able to do more turnarounds. One of the other things with this way of monitoring bus performance is bunching. So we have a pilot that's about to start where the bus operators will have a little screen that will show them how far in front and how far behind the next bus is. So that on really frequent routes, it's more important to have even spacing and not bus bunching than it is to perform on time. Versus if you only have 2 buses an hour in some of these more coverage areas out, on the edge of the boroughs, and so, they expect that bus to be there at 7:08 and 7:38. You want them to be there at 7:08 and 7:38. The gap and the distance between them doesn't matter as much. So we're trying to reevaluate how we monitor the actual performance and change. And that facility in East New York is going to give us a lot more ability to do that, which is great that it's coinciding with the rebuilding of these routes.
We've been going to, the staff here went to the Bronx bus redesign open houses. We've been going to the Queens one, I was at the one in Astoria. How will the next set of the Bronx redesign meetings differ from what you did in the beginning? So we know that one of the thoughts that we've had is that, the next phase is really looking at the input that was put in, but I'm interested to know what the difference is of how the meetings are gonna be, like what they look like.
I don't think either of us are up on the exact details for the format of the meetings, but we are presenting specific proposals to specific routes and nothing to other routes, or no routing changes to other routes. And I think there'll be boards with these proposals in detail with maps, and planners like us there to discuss.
It will be an open house, so that
Yes.
a workshop is us at tables drawing, an open house is easels and planners standing there, and then the planners will have with them details on all the routes, and so as you're looking at it, you say, well, what is the BX7 doing? And then we're able to go and look exactly for that. And then discussions with the planners at the boards themselves, but then the feedback we're looking for digitally through a survey. We contracted, we got a new program, it's called MetroQuest, that allows us to do amazing things with the surveys. The first survey that we had for the Bronx was not great, it was using a software that was a little not so great. So our Queens surveys that we have right now, we're getting 60 or 70% of the people that actually start the survey to complete it, whereas in the Bronx it was only like, I think 20% of the people that started the survey completed it because it was a little long and arduous. So the surveys we have are better, we're able to get more information, we're able to get information on a map. Now, I know they're working on the survey right now, I don't know they've completed it yet, but one of the features of the new software is to be able to go and point to a spot on a map and go, look, what you did to the bus here, I don't like this particular thing, do something over here instead. So it'll be more focused input.
For the
It'll be
Bronx.
for the Bronx.
Well, for everything, we have this technology.
But then, so right now we're doing, in Queens, we're just doing the open houses where we're just starting off the project. We're gonna have workshops for Queens come November, December, and then we'll have open houses for Queens after that. So each one will get a workshop and an open house or two throughout the process.
So the Bronx is now, the workshops are over,
Yes, now
and now
it's
it's back
on
to
to
the
the
open houses.
draft open house, draft plan.
Can we,
How many of the,
Andrew,
hold on one second, one
You know,
second.
we got our hands up the whole time.
And you're gonna absolutely get called on.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
How many of the route changes that you're proposing are due to a perceived lack of ridership in a current route, which may actually be a lack of paying ridership and not actually a lack of ridership?
That one I don't know. Again, we're not on the Bronx project. We work with them, but you'd have to ask the Bronx planner.
No, I'm talking about on any of them.
For ours, we
Not just
have,
Bronx.
we have ridership data that is based on MetroCard swipes, but we also have additional, we have people sit on buses and check numbers of people.
Visually.
And so we have those two,
Checkers.
the traffic checkers that we have, that data is not as frequent, obviously, because we can't have them out everywhere, but so we compare the two and we look at them. And so when I was doing a Q22 project last year, the MetroCard data was one set, the actual, ridership eyeballing was a different one, and so we look at them and we compare to look at, we use one
As
to
long as
adjust
it's
the
not
other.
just swipes,
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
it's not just swipes.
Sharon,
Andrew,
Is there a
Stop
way,
going back and forth.
is there
No,
a way
you're
we
not.
can just email you suggestions and ideas?
On the
Yeah.
website, there's a box, you can just
Which
type it right in.
which the,
If you go to new.mta.info and then look for system modernization, the bus network redesigns are all there in the same location. And Brooklyn doesn't have it, but the Bronx and Queens both right now have a box where if you just want to type in suggestions, that's the place to do it.
And also Shannon, still on the old one too.
yeah, back to bus bunching. Are you, now, I know you're not doing Manhattan, I'm gonna talk about Manhattan routes, but I'm assuming it's every place else. Are you taking into consideration where more than one route runs along a large stretch of a street, especially north-south, like, I'll just take Third Avenue, the 101, 102, 103. And they go off at some point, but when you're looking at bus bunching and it's trying to stop it, are you taking into consideration and on the west side, so that Andrew doesn't get angry at me talking just about the east side, I'll just go Columbus Avenue, which I go up and down, where you have the 7 and the 11 also, running simultaneously, or on that same, a big stretch of Columbus Avenue. And how are you going to deal with multiple routes on a same?
Yes, that is one of the reasons why we need bus network redesign. So I can't speak to the Manhattan routes. In Queens, we recently turned the Woodhaven routes, the Q52 and the 53, into SBS. And those are two separate routes that come from two separate legacies within the MTA bus company, run previously by two different groups that we combined. But because we still have them programmed separately, they're run out of different depots, they have different resources, the headway is scheduled to be a little odd and funky because one is scheduled one way and one is scheduled another. And we smashed them together as best we could for the SPS project, but it's still a bit uneven based on the different resources available. We need network redesign to be able to go blank slate and go, we're gonna have this amazing fast thing up and down Woodhaven and Cross Bay, a portion up Broadway, and then there's two portions there. So we gotta reevaluate it all, see how it goes, but then plan it as a single corridor. And that's the way we have to
So in
get
other words, you will be thinking of them as a single corridor, even though there are multiple
There will,
routes
there
running
will still
on.
often be a local and an SBS kind of thing on some of these corridors.
No,
But
that
yes, we're gonna
does
look at them as
exist already on
corridors.
Second Avenue, which is another whole story, but let's not worry about that for a while. When you get to Manhattan, you'll be doing the same kind of input and
Looking at them as
getting
corridors.
the town halls
Yes.
and everything.
Yeah.
And we'll know about that way in
Yes.
advance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to point out Washington Heights, although it is in Manhattan, we have no buses going above 168th Street after 1 a.m. Nothing. Not the BX7, not the M100, not the M5, nothing. Everyone joked that the reason I was pushing taxis was I didn't want to have to wheel to 20th Street for the emergency room. In addition, we have no east-west, and we have glacial moraines. that you have to go under or around. And interestingly enough, in this summer's decrease, every single bus in Washington Heights seems to be losing service. One of the major problems is that the end of the line syndrome from 125th, I'm sorry, from 110 to 125 to 135 to 145, we lose buses repeatedly. Don't count on whatever the sign says, everything gets turned around. I don't see that this bus redesign, when it ever gets here, is going to do anything for us. In addition, you can only cross between Manhattan and Bronx at 207, 181st, and 155th. Those blocks are virtually deadlocked. Totally deadlocked during every rush hour. We in the community have been pushing for similar to what there is in Brooklyn, where there is, not every bus in the world has to come into Manhattan and lay over. During the construction of the reconstruction of the GWB, we had bus after bus after bus blocking our neighborhood. We're a little tired of this. This is a Bronx issue, but we're Manhattan. And I really wish someone would look at that as well.
So I'll say that we're dividing up the projects by this is a little wonky, but out of the depots that the buses are out of. So the Bronx project includes everything, all BX buses wherever they go, plus the M100, just because the M100 is out of Kingsbridge Depot, which is a Bronx.
So the BX19, which serves Upper Manhattan, would be a part of that.
All this to say, please take a look at our draft plan coming out tomorrow for the Bronx, because I apparently am your neighbor in Washington Heights. Yes, there are, please take a look at the proposals. We want this summer to get feedback from folks like you, and absolutely.
You also have a 100 and a 7 running exactly at the same time. You know, the 100, the 7, within 2 minutes. And then you'll be a 25-minute break.
Yep.
That's not making sense.
Nope, absolutely not, I agree.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question. You mentioned swipes, that's how you keep track of the riders. So I'm wondering, as you change the routes, and you're looking at the counts, are you looking at different riders that are now using this bus route versus people that have now, because you've changed the routes, moved on to another bus? Is there any way to calculate that?
There are ways to calculate that, but we're not going to go too deep into that, basically because of privacy issues. As soon as you start tracking a single Metro card, you have to, number one, divorce it from all identifiable information. And as soon as you do that, you get very limited as to what analysis you can do on it. So we're not going to know necessarily that somebody who was always taking the Q4 bus up until we did network redesign started going on the new blah 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 bus. We might have an idea of how many people changed different patterns, but we won't necessarily be able to identify how people changed their individual patterns. So there will be some information, but not much, and it's a privacy issue that we're never going to be able to.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if with the new redesign,